Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 12th of 2023, and given that there's a lot of things happening between Bob Iger and the Disney Board of Directors in their constant shakeup between what's been going on with the latest box office failures and the upcoming ones, by the way, such as the Marvels and Snow White 2024, everything of what's happening with the stocks, to the theme parks around the globe, to the merchandise, and let's not forget about Disney Plus content getting purged, while rates will be upped by 2024. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get into exactly what's going on with actress Rachel Zegler, because we have a lot of things to talk about when it comes to ongoing developments about her and Snow White, the live-action remake, if you even want to call it a remake at this point in time. Now, we know that Disney has been in an uphill battle as of late with trying to course correct the company, trying to meet fan expectations or the customers' expectations, where in reality, from what it sounds like, they don't even care about that anymore. This is all about the Disney Board of Directors and BlackRock and Vanguard meeting their values and their overall goals. You know, we know that BlackRock is really behind a lot of this when it comes to the funding, when it comes to their views of what should be pressed on top of the world and the general public. But let's get to the specifics about why Rachel Zegler actually was cast in Snow White, and it's actually a whole lot worse than you would even imagine. Let's discuss. Now, for those of you that do not know, Rachel Zegler is not a huge fan of Snow White in the traditional sense. Now, with actress Zegler attached to two films, such as the Hunger Games prequel for this year and Snow White next year, one very revealing update revolving her role for Snow White has much to do with the higher-ups at Disney. One significant development, of course, involving Zegler has to do with how she was able to land the role of Snow White, and as it turns out, it is a bigger disaster than anyone even imagined. The main reason why Zegler was even given the opportunity by Disney has much to do with director Marc Webb and how he actually examined a BTS reel of footage of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, Zegler's role of Snow White was strictly chosen by Marc Webb only and only due to Webb's piqued interest of Zegler holding the apple from the Tree of Life in the Fury of Gods BTS footage. This was the sole reason why Zegler was given the role. A mixture of that and the fact that she is a singer is the reason why Webb pushed Disney to the higher-ups to actually cast her as Snow White. Even Disney agreed to hire Zegler strictly based on the Fury of Gods footage just because she looked good holding the apple. Those like costume designers and the casting director even agreed that this was all well enough to cast Zegler for the role. As it turns out, there was little to zero competition for the role of Snow White. Now guys, let me just, pause here, because this really just is going to show you that Zegler did not have to really work hard to obtain the role of Snow White, as it turns out. So, from what it sounds like, Marc Webb really wanted to get Zegler on board of Snow White just because she looked good holding the Tree of Life apple. Now, I don't know if you guys know what in the world that I'm talking about, but this was actually shown in BTS footage. You may have seen this in past videos that I have done, and that, as it turns out, was the true source as to how she obtained the role of Snow White. Not because of her acting, not because of her overall characteristics as an actor, but it all really dwindled down to Marc Webb having this shallow vision of just looking at Zegler holding the Tree of Life apple, and that was a done deal for him. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that is a terrible decision to choose Rachel Zegler to obtain the role of Snow White, and the fact that there was little to no competition and how Zegler had the upper hand in all of the auditions for Snow White because of these very off reasons that make absolutely no sense is all the more wrong by Disney. It just goes to show you that Disney doesn't care about being fair or going through the traditional audition process. Now, we know that Rachel Zegler is a singer, and she will be singing plenty in this movie, just like how she will be singing plenty in the Hunger Games prequel, mind you. She will be playing guitar in that movie, so if you guys are not aware about that, be aware she will have a guitar singing session in the Hunger Games prequel. So as for Snow White, this is, I believe, why it's going to be an even worse movie than we imagined, because they did not choose her based on her acting. They chose her based on BTS footage of The Fury of Gods, a movie, by the way, that utterly failed at the box office, that released on digital strictly like 1 month after it released in theaters, which is pretty pathetic. But moving onwards, alright, this is where matters get even worse, is that on top of all of that, Zegler was actually practically pre-chosen for the role by Marc Webb, and how he just based on the footage of her handling the apple from the Tree of Life. Additionally, Disney also began to have doubts about Zegler after her performance came out for The Fury of Gods this year, with the box office numbers for that film hitting a terrible low and not performing well in theaters, which created low confidence in Disney for Snow White 2024, of course. Now, all in all, Disney's decision to cast Zegler was only based on 3 things. She sings, she appeared good holding the apple in Fury of Gods, and how Marc Webb was forcefully pressing Disney to decide on Zegler for those 2 major reasons to cast Zegler as the iconic character in pop culture. Now, what's ironic behind all of this, guys, is that eventually Webb, and let's not forget about the fact that Webb and everything related to Zegler eventually had a lot of differences behind the scenes. They eventually had a lot of differences behind the scenes, and they had problems with each other based on some of the sessions, the singing sessions, that were, executed in a specific way that Zegler did not like. And the reason why Marc Webb was able to see this BTS footage of Fury of the Gods is that he actually knows, a lot of the writers, a lot of the directors and producers associated with Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and that's how he got his in to see Zegler doing all this BTS stuff. Behind the scenes reels and, all the behind the scenes footage that was shot. So again, like I say, I don't know what your view is on this, but this is a very bad reason as to why Disney allowed Marc Webb to essentially cast Zegler as Snow White for those 2 shallow reasons. For those 2 reasons that had nothing to do with acting, nothing to do with performance, really, as the character of Snow White. And I think it makes all the more sense now. I kept wondering to myself even, oh, there she is holding an apple in Fury of Gods. And as it turns out, it is connected to Marc Webb. So, anyway, I would really love to hear what you all have to say about this entire scenario below in the comments. What do you think about Marc Webb as a director? What do you think about Zegler and her getting cast so easily without competition, basically? And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.